coronavirus, well, they've created intense swings in financial markets. But I'm talking about greenbacks, the cash in your wallet. We touch it, we pass it between people. Some people even lick their fingers as they count it. Is that a problem?
Money changes hands all the time, but can it carry the coronavirus? The short answer is most likely.
Experts say the coronavirus can live on surfaces like cash for up to 10 days.
Paper money. When you start to think about it, there are many, many hands and places that cash comes in contact with on a daily basis. And yes, the experts tell us what some might expect. Diseases and viruses such as COVID-19 can be transmittable through phone lines, surfaces that have been handled by an infected person.
As coronavirus outbreak continues to batter China, the country's central bank has implemented a new strategy to contain the virus, deep cleaning and destroying potentially infected cash. The new measures announced by the People's Bank of China aims to contain the spread of the virus, which has infected more than 71,000 people globally and killed over 1,700. All Chinese banks must now literally launder their cash, disinfecting it with ultraviolet light and high temperatures, then storing it for 7 to 14 days before releasing it to customers. And in the central bank's Guangzhou branch, these high-risk banknotes may be destroyed instead of merely disinfected, according to
Days of overstuffed wallets in your back pocket or purse might soon come to an end. By 2020, mobile wallets on our smartphones are expected to surpass the use of credit and debit cards in the U.S.
When's the last time you paid with cash? Well, chances are cash has taken a backseat to the plastic in your wallet and smartphone pay apps.
Talk about changing times, even as some American communities are bucking the trend toward stores that don't take cash.
The outbreak of COVID-19 is accelerating Canada's transition towards a cashless society. In just years, the way we purchase goods will be faster and more convenient, but
last year, only 13% of Swedes could remember using cash for a recent purchase.
Use in Australia is dwindling, and it could be hurting our wallets more than we realise.
It has never been easier to go cash-free. Pay a bill at a restaurant, catch a cab, send money to a friend. With just a push of a button, peer-to-peer payment services are exploding.
Tens of millions of Americans use them every year, and it's growing very fast.
Experts say going cash-free can be a smart financial move.
You know, I'm always able to track my receipts and my expenditures really easily. It's on my credit cards. I mean, literally cent for cent, I know what I'm spending, and I'm not losing change every single day.
And it's not just consumers who are shifting away from paper money. Businesses are also jumping on this trend as well.
It's much more efficient and easy to be able to manage electronic payment systems in this day and age than having to deal with both cash and electronic payment systems.
Safety is another big reason restaurants say they are going cash-free. No cash means nothing for thieves to run off with. But experts warn about the people who may be left behind, so-called unbanked consumers. A 2015 federal survey, the most recent, found that 7% of American households had no checking or savings account.
When salad seller Mad Radish opened in Ottawa 2 years ago, it tossed cash in favor of debit and credit only. Other businesses have followed, and so have consumers.
We've just sort of shifted to that Apple Pay, and that's been super handy as well. You don't even have to pull out your credit cards.
According to an organization that tracks payments in Canada, 73% of all transactions in this country are electronic. So we're essentially already a digital economy. And the Bank of Canada is now looking at digital currency.
The bank needs to think about other emerging payment technologies. These, of course, include crypto assets, such as Bitcoin.
The Bank of Canada announced today it's joining forces with 5 other central banks in England, Japan, Sweden, Switzerland, and the European Central Bank to study digital currencies. It's hard to ignore given the emergence of Bitcoin. The percentage of Canadians who own the cryptocurrency jumped from 2.9% to 5% between 2016 and 2017. Now, most people use it as an investment vehicle. After all, one Bitcoin is worth more than $11,000 Canadian. but it's highly volatile, and some predict its days are numbered.
The moment the central banks get into digital currency, that will be the death knell for these private digital currencies.
China is already working on its own digital currency, and social media giant Facebook is doing the same. It's why business professor Ian Lee says Canada has no choice but to start looking at it. However, he points out our central bank has to be careful not to become competition for commercial banks.
If they created such an attractive digital currency, they would suck all that deposit money, or a lot of it, out of the banking system.
A spokesperson with the Bank of Canada cautions these discussions with other countries are just exploratory and no decision has been made yet. But when you consider where our economy already is, the central bank may have to create a digital currency to remain current. Mike LeCouture, Global News.
These scenes are the new norm in India. Long, snaking queues at every bank and ATM. Why? Well, that's because India has a cash crunch.
Hello, change for 2,000 rupees?
It's the same story everywhere. It's hard to break a 2,000 rupee bill, about $30. And it's been like this for 3 weeks when the government suddenly pulled all 500 and 1,000 rupee notes from the economy and replaced them with new 500 and 2,000 rupee notes. The government says it's trying to eliminate illegal, untaxed money, but banks can hardly keep up. There is one clear winner, though.
I'm at a New Delhi street market, and there are a lot of roadside stalls and vendors here that sell all kinds of street food. And obviously, these are places that are struggling because all of their transactions are in cash, and there's less cash in the market. So this store behind me has started using something called Paytm.
Paytm is the top Indian digital wallet company, and it seems to be everywhere on TV ads and billboards. Founder and CEO VEHVWH Sharma says this is boom time for digital money in India.
When we started, we were about 150 million users, and now we are 160 million users in less than 3 weeks. So 10 million customers got signed up in less than 3 weeks.
That's a 7% jump in 21 days, and guess what? The growth isn't limited to the big cities. 4 out of every 7 Paytm users are in rural India, the places that a majority of India's population calls home. Perhaps that's why Sharma's startup is valued at more than $5 billion.
We have an opportunity for converting India into a first world of digital payments.
Sharma says teaching Indians how to get online remains a hurdle, which is why he employs a small army of 10,000 to sign people up. Back at Delhi's street food stalls, I learned that my local vendor started using Paytm just 3 weeks ago, the day after India's move to ban old notes. Already, he's making 1/5 of his revenue from digital money. It's one small step for local businesses, but perhaps a much bigger leap for India's digital future. Ravi Agrawal, CNN, New Delhi.
Cash has been limping out of the economy for years.
Excuse me, I wondered if you had any change for a 20.
No, sorry mate, don't carry cash.
It's all credit cards at the moment. Now COVID is killing it off.
We've seen a really sharp decline in people taking cash out at the ATM.
That may be hitting budgets because tapping to pay means skipping a built-in biological hurdle.
There are parts of the brain that feel pain, and what's interesting is the bilateral linceal, which is the part of the brain that feels pain, actually also feels pain when we hand over cash.
Without it, we spend more.
The difference between spending cash and spending with a card could be up to 115% more if you use a card.
Between March and May, ATM withdrawals slumped 40% compared with the same period last year, while mobile payments surged 41% in volume and 59% in value.
I think we will continue to see cash go down quite dramatically, particularly as businesses choose to accept it less and less.
Coffee shop industry Beans now doesn't accept cash at all.
Over the last sort of 10 years, it's gone from 60% of people using cash to about 20% of people using cash now, which was really the trigger for us to change to a cashless business.
Cash just isn't king anymore. In fact, in the last 3 months, just one bank, ANZ, has registered almost 13 million more taps than it did this time last year. So how do we take back control?
China. Ben Tracy is in Beijing to show us what a nearly cashless society actually looks like. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. So when I moved here to China a couple of months ago, I kept getting funny looks every time I would pull cash out of my wallet to pay for things. And then I got one of these. It's a code on my phone, and now I can basically buy anything here in China. When you pay for something, how do you pay for it?
Mobile phone.
On the streets of Beijing, cash is definitely not king. What do you think of people who use cash to pay for things?
That's rare and weird, he says. Only the elderly and people who don't know how to use a phone pay cash. This woman says, I rarely take my wallet when I go out, just my phone. That's because those phones can buy just about anything, from clothes in the store to steamed buns on the street. They're used to pay for bike rides and bus rides, rent and utility bills.
When was the last time you used cash? A month ago? Wow, that's a long time.
WeChat and Alipay dominate China's mobile market, and payments on their platforms totaled more than $5.5 trillion last year, a 200% jump from the year before, and nearly 50 times more than the value of mobile payments in the U.S.
One of the big reasons mobile payments have caught on so quickly here in China is because of what most people here don't have in their wallets: credit cards. They basically went from a cash-based society to a cashless one and skipped the step in between.
China has leapfrogged the U.S. into going to a cashless society.
Andy Mock is an economist in Beijing. He says China's cashless revolution has happened in just 3 years, largely thanks to these things called QR codes. You simply scan them with your phone to pay. Nearly every business and person has one. From the farmer's market to the musician on the street playing for a mobile tip.
You can give a homeless person money with your phone. You would never see that in the U.S.
All you have to do is scan that code to transfer money. And it really is ubiquitous in China. From the largest cities, the fanciest hotels, to the most humble street-side shacks will all use QR codes.
The Chinese are comfortable doing everything on their phones, while in the U.S., credit cards and online shopping via personal computers still rule.
These kinds of legacy technologies make any adoption of newer generations of technologies much more slower. So in this sense, I think the U.S. has a little bit of catching up to do.
A recent survey found that 40% of Chinese people carry less than $15 on them, but they would never dream of leaving home without this. As one guy told me on the street, you can't achieve anything without your phone.
Japan may just give you a run for your money as the country adopts new approaches to promote cashless payments. And companies, including Southeast Asia's largest mobile service provider, Singtel, are seeing an opportunity to expand their mobile payment footprints there, as Bitrue Ishida reports.
Haneda is Japan's busiest airport and the 5th busiest in the world, handling more than 80 million passengers every year since 2017. Japan as a whole has been attracting a record number of inbound tourists, or 31 million in 2018. Chinese and Koreans form the largest groups. Also growing rapidly in numbers are those from Southeast Asia. Seeing this as an opportunity, Singtel decided to partner with Japanese tech company NetStars to introduce its regional mobile payments network here.
In a lot of Southeast Asia, there are many prepaid subscribers who have mobile wallets to top up their account. And naturally, they have a lot of mobile wallets which they are using and can be used overseas, will definitely benefit them.
Singtel's VIA Alliance was first launched in Thailand in October last year.
こちらの国際線ターミナルにおきましては、免税店については、キャッシュレス化はだいたい 77%、非常にも多くの割合になっております。もちろんこれからどんどんキャッシュレス化が進んでいくと思いますので、今の現金で買うお客さんがどんどん少なくなって大きくなるのかなというふうに思っております。
When we look at the bigger picture of cashless payments in Japan, it's not as common as at this airport. There is room for expansion. Japan's cashless payment rate is 20%. That's according to the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Now, compared to other industrialized nations, it's quite low. And the Japanese government is setting a target of 40% with its subsidy. Industry players expect the take-up rate of cashless payments in Japan to accelerate with more government support.
5年前にもうなかなか涙出るぐらいのレベルでサービス出したんですもうで今ですね国は補助金出していて 3.7 億補助金出していてもう積極的にキャッシュレスやろうという一つありまして民間企業は日本では約20種類ぐらいあるじゃないの
He sees business opportunities in the rural areas where small shops and eateries only take cash.
ネットアーズは今各地方の例えば地方銀行さん様とかあるいは地銀さん様とか一緒に協力しながらですね地方のプロモーションあるいはセールスを今やってます。
Cashless payments in Japan could gain further momentum soon. The Shinzo Abe government is proposing an incentive program in October when the planned consumption tax hike is expected to take effect. Under the program, merchants that offer customers cashless payment options will receive special tax breaks that help them absorb the negative impact of the tax increase.
Russia is also taking steps to offset the harsh economic sanctions from the West meant to punish Moscow's move in Crimea. Russian President Putin is planning a self-sufficient domestic credit card industry. Daria Bondarchuk has more.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said the national payment system would help reduce Russia's reliance on U.S. financial services companies and limit any disruption to Russia's economy resulting from foreign sanctions.
It is a pity that some companies made a decision about some well-known restrictions. I think this will simply lead to the loss of certain market segments for them, a market which is very profitable.
Last week, Visa and MasterCard stopped payment services for clients of Bank Rossiya, its subsidiary Sobinbank, and several other Russian banks whose shareholders were on the U.S. sanctions blacklist. Russian political analysts say Putin's decision is in part a response to his domestic critics who complain about Russia's excessive reliance on foreign payment systems, claiming they enable foreigners to hold Russian banks hostage.
I do not think that contracts with Visa and MasterCard will be cut off in the close future. I think that all contracts will continue, but this decision has very strong symbolic meaning.
Efforts to set up a Russian bank payment system has been in the works for over 3 years. Financial analysts here say the system will not be easy to create or implement, but they consider it essential to diversify Russian banking, which relies on Visa and MasterCard to settle payment transactions.
It will be a burden for the federal budget, which will possibly be shared by the banks participating in the system, though their share will be minimal, and of course the central bank will have to spend some money. And certainly it will cost tens of millions of dollars or more.
Russia's central bank and Russian lawmakers estimate the demand for such system with a domestic processing center will be high, because eventually it would handle up to 90% of all transactions in Russia.
If the government creates the situation in which this national payment system will be cheaper than others to use, then people will go in and start using it.
The draft bill establishing the new bank card payment system is expected to be finalized by October this year. International credit card companies such as Visa, MasterCard and UnionPay will have a new local competitor, while Russian consumers will get more freedom of choice and a new homegrown option that will help protect them in case of banking disruptions due to political conflicts.
Coins and notes have been the foundation of trade for centuries, and the weekly market in the town of Rochford is as traditional as they come.
My own opinion is I think we can't get to a stage where we go cashless. I know if we do, that's how it is, but I don't think we can get to that.
But while a decade ago 6 in 10 transactions involved cash, today it's less than 3 in 10 and falling rapidly. JMac butchers can cope with cash, card and electronic. But many customers still strongly prefer cash.
I could give you a list as long as your arm. There's loads. They always use cash. They won't use anything else.
I need to have cash in my bag every day.
£5 notes, etc. Because at the end of the day, I don't like using a card if I'm only spending £3.
In 2019, the Access to Cash Review warned that a cashless society would leave 8 million people in Britain struggling to cope. And poverty was an even bigger factor than being elderly.
If you earn less than £10,000 a year, you are 14 times more likely to be dependent on cash than if you earn over £30,000 a year. And that's because actually cash is still one of the best ways of budgeting. If you've only got £50 for the week, if you've got £50 in cash, you can't go overspent. And we hear that all the time.
With its significant numbers of elderly and disabled and low-income residents, Rochford was an ideal candidate as an access to cash pilot scheme. One idea under consideration here is to set up a local finance hub, offering bank services without being tied to any specific bank brand.
The community are taking ownership of this problem and providing solutions for each other, and we would use the hub as an outlet for those services.
Rochford's last remaining bank branch closed in 2017. The post office often struggles to cope. The lack of access to cash was being a drain on the town's economy. And then came coronavirus.
At the height of the pandemic here in the UK, ATM usage collapsed by 65%. It's only just now recovered to 40% down. And the estimate is that 5 years of cash decline has been accelerated into the past 5 months.
What we need is everything in place to allow the recovery to be as smooth as possible. And access to cash is a part of that.
Rochford is keen to learn the lesson of Sweden, where a rapid switch away from accepting cash as payment led to irreversible damage to the cash infrastructure. The warning from Sweden: don't sleepwalk into the same point of no return.